This is Jace from the Comic Source coming to you live from San Diego Comic-Con, here to talk Bad Idea, as you all know, fan of the year, that's right. Planet Death, that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have the co-writers, Derek Kolstad, Robert Venditti, here to tell us all about it. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Rob. You've done this before. Elevator pitch for the series, which, from what I've seen of the series, there's no elevator pitch that can do justice to it.
This will be the first time I try to do an elevator pitch on it, so you can check my work. So it's about a guy named Corporal Scott who wakes up on a ship and is part of a massive D-Day style invasion of an alien world. And their entire mission is they have to destroy this enormous weapon that is running off the core of the planet. And in order, before they can go home, they have to destroy that. That's their entire mission. So they face all kinds of enemies, natural conflicts, enemy armies, insane weaponry, all kinds of things. And the purpose is just to try to get to that weapon and destroy it. How'd I do?
Dude, you remembered his name. That's
Well, that title, Planet Death, Derek, I mean, you're really putting it all out there, right? Holding nothing back.
Oh,
Same
dude,
with the story, right?
To be honest, man, I give myself shit all the time, but I'm not a title guy. John Wick was originally Scorn, so I think it was Dinesh who came up with Planet Death. Had we heard it, we're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned John Wick. For those that don't know, Derek Kolstad, you've written those movies, been heavily involved. This is your first foray into comics?
I was an editor on one of the John Wick adaptation comic books, but this is one of the first times I've actually created from the ground up. And it was fun because I've known Dinesh for years, and one day we're just chatting, and I write like a madman, and in essence I have a drawer of just treatments and scripts, and he's like, do you have anything just sitting around? And it's like, I got this thing, and he read it. He's like, we should do that. And I was like, great. I don't know how to write a fun comic book. And again, the thing about writing is, we were just talking about this, but like novels, short stories, teleplays, screenplays, comic books, all these mediums, video games are very different. And it was great to partner with a guy that's his first voice,
Well, one of the things that's a challenge, and you know this, Rob, there's never enough real estate, right? Totally different from live action. So was that the biggest challenge? You only have a limited amount. You got to make sure you're being as efficient as you can in the panels, but you still want those iconic moments.
Well, the nicest thing about this one, though, has been in a lot of my screenplays, you will have 3 to 7 pages of no dialogue, of just, action or vista shots or, just all of that kind of stuff. And when he started doing what he does and we started seeing the images, I began to understand how those 2 or 3 or 5 mindsets work together. And really it was almost looking at it not as a moving picture, but we were taking really cool Polaroids and putting them on page in my head, and again, I learned a lot from these guys and I continue to learn,
Yeah, also, I would just say to add to that, like one of the great things about working for Bad Idea is there isn't really you only have 20 pages.
That's true.
Like yeah. I've turned in scripts for them, and with Planet Death, Dinesh's response and the team's response, and Tomas was like, can we have more pages to, make this more epic and do some double page spreads and things. And where I always try to be page conscious, they're like, whatever the story needs, So a lot of times the notes come back and are like, make it as big as you need it to be, So it's really freeing in that regard and not confining really at all when you work with them.
Well, you've been doing this a long time, Rob, veteran, been on the show tons of times, which I always appreciate. Bringing in this new blood that hadn't worked on a comic before, what did you get out of it? Because I know you're constantly trying to learn and just absorb and continue to grow as a creator. Yeah,
so I would say as new as maybe Derek sounds to comics is how new I am to the film side. I know nothing about it, and so reading his document is not like a document that I'd read before. And it was just, it's hard to explain. When I was trying to explain it to Dinesh, it was like I was caught up in sort of the pacing of it and in the conflict of it, and I couldn't stop writing it. I've never really had that happen before, where I just had to put my head down and I had to get it out because like I couldn't. It was like I had an adrenaline rush, feeding off that document and writing the story and things. And so just to see him put that together and how he built that, definite learning experience too, as well as just talking story with him and having, met with him a few times and the conversations we have. And I don't know, Derek has a really amazing ability to take something that is sort of familiar in terms of genre, but do something with it you've never seen before. But when you see that new thing, it seems so obvious, and those are always the best ideas, the ones you don't know why that was never that way before, and so it's really inspiring to work with somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. You just had to get the story out, so that's got to be gratifying for you to hear.
Well, I mean, I fucking love this, and I love people that get just as excited about it. And to me, iron sharpens iron. Best idea wins. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but ultimately, too, like every now and then, how you hear a note on something and you realize that note is gonna take an additional 50 hours, but it's gonna make the project just a little bit better. You always do that note. And I think going back and forth with this whole crew, became like magic. It was just organic and fulfilling.
Yeah, well, to your point, Rob, story, right? So whether it's a film or, on television or a comic, especially film and comics, a visual medium, for sure. So what was it like seeing the amazing art from Tomas Giorello coming in?
It was stunning. And at the same time, it is a unmoving image that moves, if that makes sense. And it just harkened back to, I have a special love for H.P. Lovecraft and going back to Conan the Barbarian. And, I grew up with Heinlein and a lot of these guys and read, you name it, Arthur C. Clarke. And just seeing the first image, I was like, it's like his imagery is a love letter to what I grew up with,
It really does feel like he's leveled up on this project, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, my fear for Derek is like there's nowhere to go but down from here. You know what I mean? He's going to be like, oh, it's like this all the time. You know what I mean? It's his first book. But no, yeah, it's extraordinary. And I love the posing and the postures of the figures. They're in these giant, sturdy pieces of armor. And it feels bulky and fluid at the same time, and just the way the characters like get up off the ground or the way they turn at the torso or things like that. It's like you can feel the power behind them. And like you say, it's an unmoving image. That stuff's really, really difficult to do. And so Tomas is an artist I've wanted to work with for a really, really long time. And so glad that I finally got the chance to do it. But to do it on a book like this, that when I wrote it, it was you never know who the artist can be, but it's who I'm imagining in my head. That's how I'm going to write this, as if that person ends up doing it, and to have him be on the book, it's just extraordinary, Yeah.
So is the next step for you guys, okay, let's get it out in the world. You really want to see fan reaction. I mean, we know at San Diego Comic-Con, if you come to the Bad Idea panel, or if you're at the party, you can get sort of a preview copy, if you will, but there's no dialogue. So do we know a release date? Do we know it's going to be in comic shops?
Yeah, that's above my pay grade, I think. Yeah, so you'd have to ask Bad Idea that. But yes, I mean, we are definitely excited to get it out into the world, and we are going to have some preview art that we're showing here. There's a lot more of the book that's already been done than what we're showing, and so it's extraordinary. Tomas is inking himself as well, and so it's really a singular voice, and hopefully everybody will be able to see it soon.
Well, speaking of feedback, again, we don't want to give it away because we want people to check it out for themselves. But if I say, is there a moment or maybe two moments in the story or in the book that you just can't wait for people to see, where it's just going to blow their hair back, blow my hair off, and they'll be like, oh my God, fuck. Does something come to mind when I say that?
I love the Oasis.
Yeah, I was going to say a similar thing. Yeah. Again, just it was in Derek's document, and when I wrote the scene, it was just really fun and gruesome, which is not normally. You've read my stuff going for years, that's not usually what I lean into. But
it was also funny.
Yeah,
my whole thing is the whole process in this is like there's a humanity at play, but there's always a little bit of humor in there.
Yeah. So that's would have been the same thing I would have said too. Yeah.
Well, to your point about bringing humor, I mean, John Wick, all out action, right? And somber, but there's moments of humor. You got to have that levity to balance it out.
Well, and on top of it, it's like when people say John's an anti-hero. I'm like, no, he's not. He's our hero.
Yeah.
Who cares what he was? It's who he is and who he's to become. And ultimately, the people that we want to watch on screen, read or play or anything, you want them to walk into the room, sit down, and share your bowl of popcorn with you. If you don't do that, I think you're doing something wrong.
Cool. So the project's not completely finished yet, but just looking back on what's been done so far, Derek, what stands out for you? What's been your favorite part? Is there something that comes to mind?
Well, honestly, the for lack of a better comp, the script to screen of it all has just been stunning to me, and it's been far more magical because oftentimes when you see how the sausage is made, you're not going to eat that fucking sausage, Right. But this one has been just a joy, but also even in the hard notes meetings, just everyone has this big grin Like everyone, and the emails and the texts and phone calls, everyone just had a really good time as well. And it's kind of going, this is, again, like I harped on it, but it's a love letter to what we grew up with, you know?
Yeah, it's not always, I get like to your point, right? It's not always this way where everyone's having fun. But when you do catch that lightning in a bottle on a project, and you can speak to this, Rob, if you all are having fun making it, we have even more fun reading it. It comes through in the story, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the hope. And I feel like, as we get the preview stuff out into the world and people start to see it, and there's already been some responses to some of the art that people have seen, it feels like they're definitely picking up on that energy, and the fun that we had doing it is translating to their experience, And I remember one of the first images I saw of the book is the giant double-page spread of the ship that Tomas drew, and I was just like, look at this thing, like you can feel it, and it's like you can hear the music in the background, and that's what's really exciting, and it's translating to other people as they see what we've been doing too.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, from what I've seen, it's amazing. I can't wait to check out the story. So congrats, and thanks for the project. It's amazing.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And to everybody in our audience, badideacorp.com. You go there, sign up for the newsletter. You'll know when it's coming out. You'll know where you can get it. I would also suggest following them on Twitter. At Bad Idea Hello, and I'll put links to both the website and the social media in the show notes. So if you're having trouble finding them, you can just go and click there. Thanks again, gentlemen. It's a real pleasure.
Appreciate it.